Otherwise, there will be many sitting and standing and walking allowances.
MPs lose sitting allowances in SRC's radical reforms to bring down the wage bill.
The issue in the country now is not about technical legal issues. It's about trust. We don't trust each other. We don't trust institutions. And people are looking at each other, already beginning to say, you're the bad guys.
Walkouts and no-shows as search for consensus on ballots printing begins. Pathologists conclude the late CS Joseph Nkaiseri died of a heart attack.
The moment as a judge you realize that there could even be a perception that you're biased, you recuse yourself so that you preserve the integrity and dignity of the judiciary.
Jubilee's onslaught on judiciary brings up claims of conflict of interest.
NTV Tonight with Gladys Gachanja.
Thank you for joining us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atino. Tonight, daggers are drawn over the onslaught on the judiciary by the Jubilee Party top leadership. The Law Society of Kenya, the National Human Rights Commission and the Central Organization of Trade Union are on one side against the Jubilee Party, which is attempting to justify the statements made in Baringo. The ruling party says they are firmly behind the president, calling out Justice George Odunga for presiding over a case where he has a clear conflict of interest. They also accuse the judiciary of playing to NASA's tunes and vows to appeal the decision rendered last week by the High Court on public participation. And as Ken Mijungu reports, other judges have also been drawn into the war of words.
The war brought to the doorstep of the judiciary is getting murkier, with more allegations from the Jubilee Party in the attempt to justify claims made by President Kenyatta in Baringo that the judiciary has allowed itself to be used by the opposition in advancing its ideas.
Mimi nataka niwaambie wenye koti, tumewaheshimu, lakini msifikirie heshima ni uoga.
Today, the ruling party is mentioning names. At a press conference chaired by the Jubilee Party Secretariat Chair Raphael Tuju, the legislators, including Eden Duale, Kithure Kindiki, and Kipchumba Murkomen, allege the relationship between NASA leadership and some judges is clouding their judgment. They say Justice Odunga's wife is James Orengo's niece.
Indeed, the younger sibling of Sarah Odunga is actually named James Orengo Jr. It is that close. Did he declare it? The truth is that Justice Ouko is a brother to Mr. Yaya, and Lynn Yaya is a sister to Ida Odinga.
If I was to count on my relatives in high places, then my nearest relative in the highest place in the public life, or who is a state officer, it will not be Judge Odunga. It will not be Judge Odunga. My nearest relative would be Uhuru Kenyatta, because his sister was married in Ugenya to a cousin of mine known as Dr. Jojo Wino, who was a dentist.
The party says the judges in question should have recused themselves from the case after citing conflict of interest. Justice Odunga was one of three who made the ruling last Friday and declined to suspend the orders ahead of the appeal. The others were Joel Ngugi and John Mutivo.
We spoke with restraint and clearly knowing that we do not want the judiciary to be used to move the elections from 8th of August. Number two, that the judiciary is going to be a conduit for anarchy in this country. Number three, that the judiciary is trying to aid NASA to have a Nusumkate government by ensuring that the elections do not happen on 8th of 8. And that warning for the nation is important.
But the Law Society of Kenya described the statements from the head of state as alarming. In a statement signed by LSK President Isaac Kokero, LSK says that when the public comments, questions the independence of the judiciary or threatens the judges, they erode the foundation of administration of justice. It goes further to say that it's irresponsible of the president, his deputy, members of parliament or any other person to make statements to the effect that the Chief Justice and judges of the judiciary are partial.
I'd like to ask the chairman to declare his interest, the people he meets, the instructions he takes, and who he spoke on behalf.
On the other hand, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights say they view the comments as veiled threats to the judiciary and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. In a statement signed by the Commission's chairperson George Morara and Gender and Equality Commission Chair Wilfred Lichuma, the two organizations also say the judiciary should not suffer the excesses of the political class and pressure should not be exerted on the judiciary and the IEBC.
All Kenyans, including the political class, are bound to respect the rule of law.
The Central Organization of Trade Unions, in a statement signed by the Secretary General, Francis Atwoli, described the comments as unfortunate and regrettable and likely to herald a state of anarchy. Kotu also cautioned the Jubilee leadership against utterances that are likely to erode the much-needed confidence in the judiciary.
Good.
The Jubilee Party, however, says criticizing the judiciary should not be construed as undermining its authority.
I think the judiciary, being a public institution, should be awake to the fact that they are public servants and their actions can be criticized by Kenyans.
The judiciary, however, is yet to respond to these allegations made today. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
President Uhuru Kenyatta continued his onslaught on the opposition, saying they are free not to participate, but they cannot sabotage the August elections. The president said the opposition should wait for 2022 if they feel they are not ready for the 2017 general election, instead of using court cases to undermine the process. He spoke in Lodwar, Turkana County, where he had gone vote hunting.
Once again, the president hit out at the opposition for what he terms as schemes to frustrate elections through court cases. He challenged the opposition to pull out of the race if they are not ready, instead of sabotaging the entire process.
Ninaambia ndugu yangu mkubwa, kwa heshima kubwa, jameni, kama huko tayari kwa uchaguzi, wewe wachana na uchaguzi, sisi tuendelee na wale wengine ambao wako tayari. Yeye agojee washindane na Ruto mwaka wa 2022. Au ni namna gani jameni? Sini hivyo? Sini namna hiyo? Wagojee washindane mwaka huu. Sisi wa Kenya wengine tuendelee jameni.
The president, accompanied by his deputy and other Jubilee leaders, said it would be unfair to Kenyans for the opposition to scuttle the elections for their own selfish interests.
What are we supposed to make when a bench is appointed with the people who are family members of people who are in court and people who have unapologetically taken sides in the political debate? Are we supposed to continue believing that the judiciary is independent? Because we may not be learned, but we are not fools.
The head of state, who is seeking re-election, used the platform to sell the Jubilee development agenda, saying they had upgraded infrastructure, provided water and better healthcare, as well as providing electricity to the locals. The president and his deputy made several stopovers in Kakuma and Lokitaung before addressing a rally in Lodwar. Harith Salim, NTV.
Staying with the upcoming election, a meeting of presidential candidates and the IEBC failed to provide a concrete way forward regarding the printing of ballot papers for the presidential elections. Jubilee Party, while insisting that it is wrong for the candidates to deliberate on the matter as it amounts to conflict of interest, said it would not oppose other candidates discussing the issue. NASA and other presidential candidates came armed with suggestions on how IEBC should move forward. And as Andrew Cheng reports, what transpired? in this story.
No uncertain order, yes.
The meeting that began in the afternoon saw the sharp divisions that have plagued the process of printing of ballot papers for the presidential race play out. While some of the candidates and their representatives had expected the IEBC to come up with a way forward, which the candidates would then discuss, it didn't have any, and instead saw this as a consultative forum on how to proceed after the High Court nullified the tender that had been awarded to Ghurair. Third Way Alliance had a suggestion initially.
I hope, even as we discuss about the way forward, you actually will be able to negotiate with Ghurair that they shouldn't hold Kenyan people responsible if they do not end up printing the presidential ballot paper.
Some candidates came armed with proposals on how to proceed. NASA had a written memorandum where they say that the tender should be awarded to an international firm with the reputation and capability to print the ballot papers as long as it is not Ghurair. They also insist that the company printing the ballot papers should not be the same one printing the results declaration forms. The Third Way Alliance suggested that since the results will be declared at the constituencies, the ballot papers distributed in all the 290 constituencies should be different so that there is no fraud. The Alliance also wants agents of the candidates to be present during the printing to audit the process. But Jubilee disagreed. They say that the candidates should not be involved in any way in the printing of ballot papers.
There can be no other definition of conflict of interest other than where presidential candidates will be sitting to preside over who is going to deal with ballot papers.
This commission or any other commission cannot be directed by anybody or by any institution. That is the constitution.
I don't want somebody to think that NASA is going to choose for you who the printer is going to be. That is not part of our business.
Jubilee, however, says that while it will not be involved in the discussions on who should print the papers, it will not stop the other candidates.
Should our competitors engage either in the process or mechanism or the ultimate decision as to who will print those ballot papers, we want to assure you that we will have no objection.
But therein lies the confusion. The same officials who were at the meeting said they were not satisfied with the High Court ruling and would appeal it.
The issue in the country now is not about technical legal issues. It's about trust. We don't trust each other. We don't trust institutions. And people are looking at each other, already beginning to say, you're the bad guys, and so on and so forth.
We have absolutely no interest on who prints ballot papers.
Give 10 million to Jubilee, walete or they print 10 million to ODM, we have no problem. If they are saying and they mean we are not interested, we not participate, you give it to the government printers, give it to Kirinyaga, what is this Kirinyaga guys, they will do it. Nipicha na jina too, it's not a big thing, something very small.
Another confusion also came on the part of the IEBC, while the Commission says it is appealing the outcome of the High Court ruling, which mandated it to conduct public participation before awarding the tender. It is proceeding with the public participation tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Commission now insists that all the presidential candidates will be required to attend all future meetings and their representatives will not be allowed. The main truants from past meetings have been Jubilee's Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA's Raila Odinga. All the parties are in agreement that the elections have to be held on the 8th of August and that they have to be free and fair. But will the remaining 27 days allow for that? Andrew Ochieng, NTV.
Well, the latest on that story is in a statement to newsrooms this evening. IEBC says it will not retender printing of ballot papers for presidential elections, saying it presents practical challenges. We shall follow that up for you in our subsequent bulletins. And the NASA coalition is raising concerns over the integrity of the voters' roll. Now, the coalition says the register contains names of people unqualified to vote, as well as double registrations. NASA puts the number of double registrations in the voters' roll at 400,685. The coalition further claims that the huge number of the double registration cannot be attributed to a mistake. The coalition is now asking the IEBC to clean up the register with haste to ensure that its integrity is maintained in order to ensure that the August poll is free, fair and credible. High Court Justice John Mativo has directed that the Chief Justice constitutes a three-judge bench to hear and determine an application filed by NASA demanding that the IEBC uses electronic voting and vote transmission. In the petition, NASA is accusing IEBC of failing to disclose an alternative system to be used for voter identification and voter tallying in case technology fails during the August polls. Through lawyer Professor Ben Sihanya and Jackson Awele, NASA argues that the electoral body ought to have made the disclosure of the complementary system 60 days before the election date. Paul Nyamode for IEBC told the court that Article 44 of the Constitution, contested by NASA and which reintroduced the use of technology in the elections, has evolved over the last 12 months. Now, NASA, however, claims the article passed by Jubilee members of parliament over the opposition's protests was in bad faith and meant to create room for voter manipulation. Mativo, in his ruling over urgency of the matter, said the petitioner raises two serious issues of the law and the case being of great public interest must be heard expeditiously.
The following on the subject, quote, "Partial point of law was
Away from the election, and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has announced massive cuts in the salaries of state officers who will take office after the general election. The new salary structure will see the country save 8.8 billion Kenya shillings yearly in wages. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that the cuts include the abolition of allowances for the officers, including the frequently abused mileage allowances. Well, we shall be bringing you that story later on, but for now, we take a short, quick break. We'll be back with much more. story by the SRC, and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has announced massive cuts in the salaries of state officers who will take office after the general election. The new salary structure will see the country save 8.8 billion shillings yearly in wages. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that the cuts include the abolition of allowances for the officers, including the frequently abused mileage allowances.
The second salary review for state officers, the executive, the legislature and holders of constitutional commissions sees these officers take a significant pay cut. Whoever wins the presidential race will get into office on a reduced gross salary of 1.44 million shillings, down from the 1.65 million shillings that the current president has been earning. His deputy will also take a salary cut to earn 1.22 million shillings, down from the 1.4 that the current office holder takes home. Cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General and the Chief of Defence Forces will earn 924,000 shillings, while the current officers in this capacity earn 1.05 million shillings. The same cuts also apply to the Principal Secretaries, the Vice Chair of the Defence Forces, the Director General of the National Intelligence Service and the Inspector General of the National Police Service, who will earn a gross salary of 765,188 shillings.
The recommended and indeed approved remuneration structure for state officers for the period 2017-2022 is anchored on the comprehensive job evaluation that was undertaken in 2013.
Legislative Assembly.
The legislature too will be subject to the new salary structure. Incoming speakers of both houses will earn 1.15 million shillings, while their deputies will take home 924,000 shillings, while the leaders of majority and minority for both houses will earn just 765,188 shillings. The MPs and senators will earn 621,250 shillings. The changes trickle down to the county level as well. The governors assuming office after the August 8th election will be paid 924,000 shillings, while those who deputize them will take home 621,250 shillings. The speakers of the county assembly and the county executives will be paid 259,875, down from the 350,000 that their counterparts currently pocket. The MCAs are also going to earn less than the 165,000 shillings that the current MCAs earn. For their duties for the counties, they will earn 144,375 shillings. Unlike the current setup, the new county governors, their deputies and the MCAs will not have the governors and deputy governors allowances, the reimbursable mileage, plenary seating and special responsibility allowances.
The bigger cry from the people, and probably even from all of you as Kenyans, that there is absolutely no reason why both the Senate and the National Assembly members should earn a salary and at the same time draw sitting allowance for the plenary sessions. Otherwise, there will be many sitting and standing and walking allowances.
At the same time, members of the Senate and the National Assembly will no longer access car grants, special parliamentary, reimbursable mileage, plenary setting and special responsibility allowances. The Commission says of particular concern has been the mileage allowance that the lawmakers have been using to inflate their weekly earnings.
This removes all claimable mileages, and we all know that there were claims even up to Kenya shillings 2 million per month. And this in itself takes care of any of those abuses.
To rectify this, the Commission now says it has laid out a structure that will see the legislators earn a flat rate depending on the distance travelled monthly, a move the Commission says will seal the loophole through which public funds are misused.
The review of the state officers' salaries will see the country save over 8 billion shillings every year in public wages, a move the SRC says is in the right direction towards the carrying out of its mandate of ensuring an affordable and sustainable wage bill for the entire country.
The new structure becomes effective on the 8th of August this year and will run until the year 2022. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Security matters now. Officials have denied reports of fresh attacks overnight in Lamu County, instead saying the government has intensified operations to secure Boni Forest, including using airstrikes. Coast Regional Coordinator Nelson Marwa, however, says residents are being evacuated to safer areas. Peter Mwangange with that report.
Security officers have started implementing a dusk to dawn curfew in 16 parts of Lamu, Tana River and Garissa counties. Much of the focus is, however, in Boni Forest in Lamu, where a number of attacks have occurred in the last few weeks, leaving more than 20 people dead. Now the government says it is evacuating residents from affected areas to safe zones. Red Cross has also been on the ground to assist.
Al-Shabaab will be flushed out of that forest. As I speak to you, airstrikes are ongoing. We must secure Boni Forest. And from here, from tomorrow, our bases will be in Lamu. You will see me in full military combat, leading the operation.
Although it's debatable whether Maro would be allowed to dress in military gear, it's not in question that securing Boni Forest has its logistical challenges. Large parts of the forest are only accessible by foot, and the foliage provides cover against aerial surveillance, making it a preferred sanctuary for the suspected Al-Shabaab militants. The government says it will not leave anything to chance.
Boni Forest is in Kenya, and the Al-Shabaab must know this, and we are going to do all it takes to secure that forest and secure Kenyans. The government is moving residents who are living around the forest to specific areas, designated areas, because there is going to be terrible operation there, and we don't want human casualties.
The operation has, however, been criticized by some leaders, especially from the National Super Alliance, who say a curfew is not the best solution and that more needs to be done. But the government warns against such utterances.
We should not involve politics in this. We should not read mischief in this. It is done in good faith. Those Muslim brothers and sisters who will be going to worship will be allowed to do that.
Learning in 3 primary schools in Witu Division, Lamu West, has been paralyzed since last week. Residents have been asked to provide information that may assist in tracking the criminals. Peter Mwangangi, NTV.
Pathologists have ruled out foul play in the death of Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery after autopsy results revealed that he died of an acute heart attack. In medical terms, he died of acute myocardial infarction, where the muscles of his heart died as a result of a compromised blood vessel by cholesterol. The pathologists insist these are their preliminary findings, but say more tests will be carried out by the government pathologist and the private pathologists separately. Daniel Mule with more.
The postmortem was conducted at the Lee Funeral Home, taking more than 6 hours, with the government pathologist Johansen Odur overseeing the procedure, in conjunction with 2 pathologists representing the family of the late Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery. According to the preliminary findings agreed upon unanimously by the 3 pathologists, retired General Nkaissery suffered a heart attack after his left ventricle muscles lacked blood due to a cholesterol clot on one of the coronary arteries that supply blood to the heart muscles.
This arose because one of the major blood vessels supplying the wall of his heart was severely compromised and could only allow a very small volume of blood to pass through it, resulting in the heart area that it supplied to undergo death. Because of this, the electrical activity of the heart was compromised and death ensued.
The experts say there is no particular cause of this, and it could happen to anyone due to fatigue, age, the food they eat, their lifestyle, stress, among other reasons.
The doctors say further tests will be done, but so far they have ruled out foul play.
They're varied, they're many, we're going to do very many tests, and so I'm not going to go into the academics of them here. As information comes out and as we receive results, we will inform you. Thank you.
Nkaissery will be laid to rest this Saturday in his Ilbisil home in Kajiado County, with the burial being preceded by a memorial mass on Thursday this week. Daniel Mule, NTV.
Elsewhere, members of the Aga Khan community in Mombasa held a colorful procession in the town to mark the Diamond Jubilee of His Highness, the Aga Khan. The parade started at Moy Avenue through other streets in the town's central business district and involved showcasing the number of institutions under the Aga Khan Development Network, and the community sought to celebrate the various contributions made to the Ismaili community, Kenya and the world at large by His Highness the Aga Khan as the 49th Imam or spiritual leader of the world's Shia Imami Ismaili Muslims. Celebrations will be conducted in other parts of the country for one year period from this month up to 11th July next year.
This is to signify the appreciation that we have for His Highness for all that he has done for the Ismaili Jamaat as well as all the people amongst whom the Ismaili Jamaat lives.
Time for another short break, but we'll be back with much more, including why Chirao Ali Makwere ditched Jubilee. He speaks to NTV's Jane Goiri.
in the corridors of justice at the end of this month after Valley Railways moved to court to stop the Kenya Railways from terminating its contract. RVR is seeking to revoke Kenya Railways notice demanding a 2.7 billion shilling payment for the concession fees, rent and damages for the life expired assets. Kenya Railways terminated the contract in March, arguing that RVR had failed to meet operation targets set in the agreement, that's including payment of concession fees. Justice Grace Nzioka, however, gave RVR breathing room after she issued an order, that is, barring Kenya Railways from terminating the contract, giving them 30 days to deposit 1.35 billion shillings in court as security. 3 churches in Kenya are doing business and have revenue of between 350 million shillings and 1 billion shillings annually. This information from the Kenya Revenue Authority records of medium taxpayers shows how much Christian organizations are looking to other sources of revenues to boost their income, moving away from relying on tithes, offerings and other designated givings by the congregants.
The crossroad between faith and business, one that is in some instances an eyebrow raiser, has seen some churches make it to the taxman's list of taxpayers who have a turnover of between 350 million shillings and 1 billion shillings a year. One church on the list is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which has been classified in the financial, insurance, government and construction category. The SDA Church makes extra money through business such as a water bottling plant, a hospital, a guest house and renting out building space. Another church is the Coptic Orthodox Church, classified under the services sector. Coptic has hospitals and other medical services platforms and is involved in humanitarian activities in the education sector. Also classified under the Kenya Revenue Authority's services category is the Nairobi Pentecostal Church, whose revenue portfolio is broader than the other 2 faith organizations. The church, also known as Christ is the Answer Ministries or CITAM, has investments in hospitality through a camp as well as a catering unit, media, real estate and education, running from beginner levels to tertiary education. These 3 churches, having delved into broader revenue avenues than relying on the traditional giving of their congregants through tithes, offerings and other designated resources, have now been classified in the same category as organizations such as the Nairobi Securities Exchange, Google Kenya, the Kenya Tourism Board, Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers and Kirinyaga Construction, among others. One of the largest real estate portfolio owners in Kenya, including of undeveloped land, is a Catholic church, which happens not to be on the list. Despite rising revenues, churches enjoy a tax-exempt status on condition that they contribute to the fight against poverty through their charitable resources. In some cases, church leaderships have been accused of self-enrichment as being the primary objective of the business endeavors under the name of the church, and some having been evidenced by battles for leadership. Scandals and accusations of the same have played out both in mainstream and non-mainstream churches, bringing to life the scripture, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." Dan Mwangi, NTV Business.
And from the pulpit to the banks. If you're an account holder at Stanchart Bank's Kisii branch, Kitengela, Bungoma and Warwick branches, you will be relocated to another branch by the end of August this year. Stanchart says in a statement that it will close 4 branches as part of its digital by design strategy, but it will focus more on online and mobile platforms. The bank, however, says that it will not be laying off the staff in the affected branches, redeploying them instead of to the other remaining branches. Now, this comes a few weeks after Barclays Bank announced a similar branch closure in an effort to manage its cost base and the effects of digital disruptions. Still to a related story, another month more layoffs, this time at Longhorn Publishers Kenya. The book publisher says the downsizing will begin this month to cut down on costs and increase in efficiencies. Now, Longhorn has not said how much of its staff will be affected by the rationalization program. The technology shift has affected its revenues as readers are opting for online and mobile devices in reading. The government's partnership with the Department for International Development, that's DFID, to distribute textbooks in primary schools is also eating into the market share of Longhorn Publishers. Financial sector regulators are ready to merge in line with the Financial Services Authority Bill for 2016, which the Cabinet has already passed and is awaiting parliamentary approval. Now, this, according to the chairman of the Capital Markets Authority, that's James Ndegwa. Keen attention is on who gets to run the new body and how many are likely to lose their jobs and influence if passed as is. Ndegwa was speaking at the Insurance Regulatory Authority Gala dinner at the close of the International Insurance Convention. Take a listen.
The Cabinet this year approved the FSA bill, and therefore we, in due course, look forward to a merger of the financial sector regulators. But I think our presence here today can assure the industry we're already collaborating, we're working very well together.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has waived up to 1.5 billion shillings in loans owed to the Agricultural Finance Corporation, that's AFC, by farmers in the counties of Kajiado, Narok and Baringo. Samburu may also enjoy a similar waiver. That's in a statement. State House says that the move is aimed at easing financial pressures on farmers in seeking to boost renewed investment in the agricultural sector. The loans were for wheat, sorghum and livestock farming, which were adversely affected by the unfavorable weather, leading to losses that left the farmers unable to repay. AFC has been holding on to the farmers' title deeds as collateral for the loans, but the head of state, has directed the National Treasury to work with the AFC to have the deeds handed back to farmers. Now, prior to this, the president had already waived 2.7 billion shillings of farmers' debts in the past few months. The Coca Cola company is Kenya's newest, biggest water bottling plant, following the merger of its local operations with SAB Miller. The merger gave rise to the Africa's biggest software drinks company as Coca Cola Beverage Africa. Now, under the deal, the Coca Cola company also took over Crown Beverages, that's SAB Miller's local subsidiary, which owns the Keringet brand of bottled water. Data from the Competition Authority of Kenya shows that prior to the merger, Coca-Cola had a 9.01% market share, the third highest in Kenya, while Crown Beverages was leading with a 13.87% market share. Now, combined, the Keringet and Dasani brands now account for the largest market share. And I go to a story we highlighted to you earlier, where the government is set to come down hard on retailers who fail to pay suppliers their dues within the stipulated period. Now, this is one of the key setbacks that suppliers in the country face in dealing with retailers, a situation which has had an adverse ripple effect on the supply chain of the wholesale and retail trade. NTV's Alex Mwangi reports.
The narrative of Nakumatt and Uchumi supermarkets is one of once robust retailers coming round to a tough season of cash flow challenges and queries on how prudent their expansion models were. The woes bedeviling the two retailers are symptomatic of wider industry problems.
What has happened is self-regulation is weaker. But more than that, we need to give force of law to the self-regulation. So we are coming up with a new regulator. And that is something that this policy is trying to address.
We have 48 billion shillings that is owed to the suppliers. What is the government doing to compel those who owe money to suppliers to pay them?
This is exactly what we are doing. First of all, I have been holding meetings with Nakumatt and with Uchumi separated to try to see how to help them. For Uchumi, we have supported as a government because we felt we have a stake in it. But for Nakumatt, we don't have any stake in it. But as PS for Trade, I'm interested in ensuring that the Nakumatt brand does not affect the rest. So we've worked to see how, if they can have a restructuring plan that does not necessarily require government to put money in.
The retail sector is key in enhancing the velocity of money, a crucial ingredient in promoting the health of an economy. Keen to see the sector remain robust, the government is putting its foot down to stamp out the pernicious habit of delayed repayments by retailers.
If you do an agreement, you must agree. If there are perishable products like milk or vegetables, for instance, which have a shelf life of 7 days, why should you take 90 days to pay? It doesn't make sense. Even if you delay, you will be punished. And there will be an interest component, not just like the market rate. There must be a punitive interest rate.
Dr. Kiptoo spoke in Nairobi during the launch of the National Trade Policy and the official opening of the Kenya Trade Week. Improving the level of Kenya's exports as well as boosting the manufacturing sector were key areas discussed during the launch of the policy.
Our manufacturing sector at around 10% of GDP is very low. We aspire to be a middle income economy where manufacturing sector should contribute far much more than the 10% that we are currently having.
75% of world exports is in manufactured products. For Kenya to be able to play in international trade, we must move into value addition.
The Kenya Trade Week runs until Wednesday. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Remember, for these stories and more, grab your copy of the Business Daily tomorrow. My name is Laban Cliff Onseri. Stay tuned. There's an interview with Gladys Gachanja, which you should not miss. Stay tuned.
Marlin Medical and Technology City. Yeah, it's a 200 billion
Welcome back. Chirao Ali Makwere left a prestigious job as High Commissioner to Tanzania to vie for Kwale gubernatorial seat. Critics, however, argue he should exit the political stage. Should he? Well, here's a candid interview with Jane Ghurair on why he thinks he is still strong in the game.
I play the saxophone. I love music, jazz music, listening to jazz. You know why I'm turning it down? I don't want people to give me greater consideration as a musician or a dancer. If you end up being that kind of stereotype, for me it would be unfortunate. Because first and foremost, I'm a scientist. Maybe I'm not to most people. I couldn't have taught mathematics and engineering science. I got interested in politics and discovered that if you want to make a mark politically, you actually create a signature for yourself. What I started with was I clenched my fist. I said, Kamata, Kamata. And people say, Kamata, Adui. Kamata, Kamata. So it became my signature. Now, later on, I changed to the big shark. Zipapa is Digo for a very big, powerful shark that eats all the other sharks. And then initially I used to say Zipapa, Zipapa, and people would respond. And I told them to respond that way. Lamka Nikuzecha. Lamka Nikuzecha is Giriama for wake up, it is dawn. So at home, when you say Zipapa, Zipapa, they answer back, Jembe la kazi kwale, Zipapa, Zipapa, Jembe la kazi kwale, because I'm going to clean Kwale and I'll make Kwale prosperous.
In 2013, the people of Kwale rejected you when you vied to be their senator. What makes you think that this time they'll give you an opportunity to be their governor?
Look, it will be landslide victory for me. And I never mince my words. I tell it as it is. It will be landslide victory for me. Jubilee has no place in Kwale County. Whatever they do, you can quote me. This is television. When it is all over, you'll shake my hand. Kwale people are fed up.
You spoke about the Jubilee government and they said they don't have a chance in Kwale County. Yet Uhuru Ruto government gave you a lifeline when they appointed you High Commissioner to Tanzania. But right now you're singing different tunes. What's the genesis of the fallout?
We were not in the same party with President Uhuru. We have never been in the same party, by the way, at all. Never. I was the deputy party leader of URP. It was a misadventure. And I must admit, I regret every step that I took and got myself involved in that party. I did not join friends. When they won, they did not want to even talk to me. They didn't receive my phone calls. They did not consider me for any government appointment. They kept on giving me false promises. 2.5 years after they had won the elections. It was not a favor to me. They appointed me as a result of the request made by Kwale women.
But if it was not a favor, why did you take up the job? And why is it that you really needed that appointment?
Diplomatically, it would have been taken differently if I'd refused to report in Dar es Salaam. I accepted, but to prove that we were not friends, 6 months later, the president released a list of the most corrupt people in Kenya. And do you know my name was there? It was just created to embarrass me. That's why I said if individuals had the right to sue, even a sitting president, I would have done it. I don't know what scares them, but I can tell you I'm a patriot, I'm a very honest man, I'm very, very clean, and I don't stand any nonsense. And I say it as it should be said, because I have nothing to fear.
Recently, the president, when he was campaigning in Lunga Lunga, Kwale County, he asked you to shut up, or else they open your past file over signing of mineral contracts. What's all that about?
I'm even baffled. I don't know what he was talking about. I don't. And he says he's got some files, I don't know, records, documents. Let the president release them. There should be no secret. the point is, when it comes to the development of this country, head and shoulders way above both the president and deputy president put together in ideas and execution. We were in cabinet together. We know each other very well. They celebrate the standard gauge railway line. I created it from zero. The problem with them is they do not give credit to those who deserve credit. But is disappointed that Base Titanium eventually did not get that land. I understand, well, the matter is still in court, but I can tell you, they will never take my people's land away from them. No, they should forget it. But I've never given land to anybody. I've never signed any leases. I was there for only 11 months and all the companies already operating.
But critics argue that you should be the last person to pretend that you care about the interests of your people in Kwale in regards to land and minerals. Because they say you've been there, you've served in several ministries, in several governments, but you've never helped them.
There are many, many parcels of land in Kwale which were returned to the people when I was in government. Well, at least when I was the minister. Even land around Diani, around Charlie Island, that was my intervention. In fact, this government has managed land issues in the colonial manner. Even the certificates, the title deeds they're giving, these are title deeds that were lying in some offices. They only issued them out. They did not give people land as such. I wish they had taken some settlement schemes or land whose leases expired, apportioned the people and then gave these people their land back. But just to get title deeds that are lying in some cartons in Nairobi and then you hand them over to the people and take that as a great input by the government is really, it amounts to a mockery.
I want us to go back to politics a bit. When you came back and decided you vie for Kwale gubernatorial seat, at one point it was said you're an ODM. In a while you went to Wiper. What happened there?
I've never joined ODM. But then it's a game of numbers and one has to be realistic and act smart. And I'm not the only one who's done that. But there are many instances all over the country where you got to act smart. It's a game of numbers. I cannot sit back and not recognize that big number, 54,000 voters who are sympathizers or supporters of Wiper in Kwale County.
And could your strained relationship with CORD leader Raila Odinga be the reason you didn't join?
Our relationship is not bad at all. No, in fact, you see, people don't understand politics. You can pick any learn a comment or two where even the best of friends disagreed. It's a question of a situation that is under consideration at that moment in time. That's all. After that, people are the best of friends. All of them, without mentioning anybody's name. Down the memory lane, they exchanged words and comments that are not worth printing now. But that's the political game.
And you just turned 72. What will you tell people who say, why should you vote for someone who's white-haired, idealist, and principled political museum artifact?
I deliberately decide to leave my hair gray. But I tell anybody who makes such comments, of course not you, but those who are saying that they should pray that to the Almighty God to allow them to reach the age that I've reached. And they'll be surprised that at this age you are full of wisdom, full of experience.
But there are those ones who will argue and say, kazi wachia vijana.
Kazi wachia vijana at certain levels. When I was a lecturer of mathematics and engineering science, that was kazi for me as a kijana. When I was principal of some colleges here, that was kazi for me as a kijana. When I was an ambassador, I'm pleased I leave that one to vijana, preparing for the highest level. The governor could be taken as the highest level in the devolved government system. So when someone says, I say, hey, let's meet on stage, man, and see who does better than the other and longer.
And what happens if Makwere doesn't win?
I did not leave Dar es Salaam to come home and lose. No, I'm winning. And when I become governor of Kwale County, and I shall be, inshallah, those who are corrupt should look for places to hide, because we'll clean the place up.
Zipapa, the jazz musician. Well, we take another short break. Sports news is next. 70 more athletes jet into days to start off the Under-18 Championships.
Let's have a look at the day's sports news. Welcome, my name is Brian Otual. With only 2 days to go before the IAAF World Under-18 Championships kick off at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi, over 500 athletes from 70 nations are expected to have arrived in the country by midnight Monday. Meanwhile, the First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, who is the patron of the event, toured Kasarani, checked on the final preps, interacted with athletes, and also got accredited.
The arrivals area at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport was a beehive of activity as athletes set to participate in the IAAF World Under-18 Championships arrived. Over 500 athletes from 70 nations were expected in the country Monday, with China having the biggest delegation at 61. Other big delegations were Romania at 39, Slovenia at 23, Brazil, Botswana, Belarus had 17 athletes each, while African countries who arrived included Nigerians and Moroccans. Meanwhile, Kasarani was also a beehive of activity as last-minute touches were done. Several athletes went through their paces practicing for their moment to shine at the Global Showpiece event. The First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, who is a patron of the championships, toured Kasarani to ensure that the preparations were completed in time. The First Lady also made time to engage with and pose for photos with the excited athletes from different nations.
Hi, this is the media center.
The World Under-18 Championships are an IAAF event and therefore are run to international standards. The most important document for anyone seeking entry into Kasarani is accreditation, and the First Lady had to go through the process.
Oh, right. Okay. You have to do the same.
Tuesday morning, we'll see the chair of the local organizing committee, Mwangi Muthe, Cabinet Secretary for Sport, Hassan Wario, officially welcome the IAAF President Seb Kotu Kenya and thereafter hold a media briefing at Kasarani. The championships will kick off on Wednesday morning with Javelin Boys, where Kenya is represented by Ita Leshan. Warote Kiru, NTV.
To some football news, Gor Mahia coach Dylan Carr has promised to make the club a force to reckon with in Africa, even as the team suffered an embarrassing exit from the Go TV Shield tournament at the weekend. Carr, who takes over from Brazilian Marcelo Ferreira, watched from the stands at Thika Municipal Stadium on Sunday as his new team lost 6-5 on penalties to Bandari, thereby ending their dream of recapturing the domestic cup they last won in 2014. Carr's first assignment will be to guide his squad in a friendly against English Premier League side Everton at the Tanzania National Stadium on Thursday. The 15-time champions earned the honors of playing the highly rated EPL side, courtesy of their 3-0 win over AFC Leopards in the SportPesa Super Cup finals played in Dar es Salaam.
We've never sacked any coach. Our coaches have left usually of their own volition and usually for their own reasons. So that's something that we loathe doing. We want continuity, and I believe that whenever there is any challenge in terms of relationship, we can always sit down and discuss.
My long-term goals is to be successful for Gor Mahia and for this chairman and the people associated with Gor Mahia, because they've given me a massive challenge, a massive chance in football. As I said before, once I found out that they were interested in me, there was no doubts, that there was no question of where I wanted to be, because I know how big this club is and I know how big they want to be the best in Africa. Not just in Kenya, but in Africa.
Staying with football, Go TV Shield defending champions Tusker FC will take on Ruiru-based Minos Butterfly FC in the round of 16 of the Go TV Shield. Tusker pipped Palos 1-0 at the Kinoru Stadium, while Butterfly got a walkover against Mwatate United, who were a no-show in Wundanyi. In other Zone B matches, Kakamega Homeboys of the KPL will take on NSL leaders Vihiga United in a Western Derby. NSL Speedco United hosts KPL's AFC Leopards as Eldoret-based GFE 105 meet with Wazito in an all-NSL matchup. In Zone A, KPL's Bandari, who ousted Gor Mahia on penalties, play NSL's Nakumatt, who beat Modern Coast also on penalties. Some rugby, the national 15s rugby team will not allow complacency to set in despite its emphatic bonus point 100-10 win over Tunisia in the Africa Gold Cup on Saturday at the RFUEA. Match day 3 also saw Africa rugby powerhouses register its second bonus point win of the campaign with a 95-0 drubbing of Senegal in Windhoek. Namibia topped the standings with 10 points. Kenya Simbas are second on 7 points, while Uganda are third on 6 points. Zimbabwe, who have only played once, are fourth on 4 points, with Senegal fifth on a point. Winless and pointless Tunisia last. Some European transfers. Newly signed Everton striker Wayne Rooney will be in the touring squad that will face Gor Mahia in Thursday's pre-season friendly. That is the pre-season friendly match at the Tanzania National Stadium in Dar es Salaam. In a tweet by Everton FC, Rooney, in his first press conference, said Everton FC's trip to Tanzania provides the perfect opportunity for him to get to know his teammates. The 31-year-old, who rejoined the Merseyside club on Sunday from Manchester United on a 2-year deal, will come up against the 15-time champions who won the SportPesa Super Cup last month after a 3-0 win over arch rivals AFC Leopards. And Kenyan international Michael Olunga was not in action or on the bench as his side Guangzhou Zhisheng won for the first time in 5 matches, pipping Liuping Kaixing 1-0 in a Chinese Super League encounter. Croatian Nikika Jelavic scored the solitary goal through a penalty. The win sees Olunga's Guangzhou Zhisheng stay 11th on 18 points after 16 games. Meanwhile, the top two sides in the Super League, that is leaders Guangzhou Evergrande and Shanghai SIPG, both lost, meaning there was no change at the top. Evergrande's 2-0 loss to Beijing Guizhou on Saturday had opened the door for SIPG to leapfrog them with a win. Well, that's the sport. Have a lovely night. My name is Brian Otuala.
Well, time for us to call it a night. Thank you so much for your company, and a special thank you to Flora Atino for being our sign language interpreter tonight. But do not go to bed yet. Prespers is next with Mark Masai. My name is Gladys Gachanja.
This is NTV.